Across the scorched plains of today's Pakistan and northwestern India stand the silent ruins of cities that once hummed with life. Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, D'Oliveira names etched in baked brick and dust. 4,000 years ago, their streets were clean, their baths public, their wells brimming, and their drains more advanced than many towns today. Yet one day, their bustling avenues grew quiet, trade faltered, and houses fell into disrepair. The Indus Valley Civilization, the Harappans, seemed to fade from history. What caused one of humanity's earliest great urban cultures to decline, and what clues did they leave behind? The story begins on the fertile floodplains of the mighty Indus River and its tributaries, where seasonal floods nurtured rich soil for crops. Farmers planted wheat, barley, and lentils, sustaining villages that would grow into cities. People learned to manage water, build with standardized bricks, and create orderly neighborhoods. Their settlements formed grids with straight streets, wells, and drainage systems. The river's abundance and predictable monsoon rains encouraged stability. In this cradle of abundance, the Harappan world was born. Trade routes fanned out from these settlements, reaching as far as Mesopotamia. Boats plied the rivers, carts rolled along dusty roads, and merchants exchanged cotton cloth, beads, and metals. Artisans crafted intricate ornaments and carved mysterious seals bearing undeciphered symbols. People worshipped household deities, mother goddesses, and sacred animals like the bull and the elephant. Over centuries, the region developed a unified style of town planning, weights and measures, and artistic expression. This unity suggests a sophisticated, if largely invisible, administration. From roughly 3300 BCE onward, the Indus culture expanded into a vast zone of interaction. Cities like Harappa in the north and Mohenjo-Daro in the south became centers of production and governance. Smaller towns and craft villages fed into these hubs, creating a vibrant network. The Indus world was not ruled by giant temples or kings like Egypt or Sumer, but by a more subtle system, perhaps councils or civic authorities. This distinctive pattern would shape its rise and foreshadow its fragility. Mohenjo-Daro rose on the banks of the Indus as a marvel of urban planning. Streets intersected at right angles, lined with uniform houses. Every home had a well, a bathroom, and a drainage pipe leading to covered sewers. The Great Bath, an enormous, watertight pool, suggests ritual bathing and public gatherings. This emphasis on cleanliness and water management distinguished Harappan life. Harappa, farther north, mirrored these innovations with warehouses, platforms, and a granary. The uniformity of bricks ratio 1 to 2 to 4 appeared in city after city, hinting at centralized standards. Artisans shaped beads of carnelian and lapis, smiths worked copper and bronze, and potters produced painted vessels. The Indus script, though undeciphered, appears on thousands of seals, hinting at a literate bureaucracy. In Lothal on the Gujarat coast, archaeologists uncovered what may be the world's earliest dockyard. Here, ships could unload cargo from distant lands. This port city underscores the Harappans' outward gaze and their integration into a global Bronze Age economy. Cities of water and brick thus formed a web of urbanism that thrived for centuries. Inside these cities, daily life pulsed with rhythm. Farmers brought grain into warehouses, potters spun their wheels, and beadmakers polished gems for export. Women may have overseen household shrines, while men plied crafts or trade. Children learned skills by watching elders, passing down traditions. The population likely spoke several dialects yet shared common symbols. Religion appears in terracotta figurines of goddesses, horned deities seated in yogic postures, and sacred trees and animals. Amulets, altars, and fire pits hint at rituals whose meanings remain elusive. Despite these clues, the Harappans left no palaces, no monumental statues of kings, no warlike murals, only modest artifacts of everyday spirituality. This quiet strength made their cities resilient for centuries. Without ostentatious rulers, resources went into public works. Yet such a decentralized system also lacked visible command in times of crisis. As long as rivers flowed and rains came, this model thrived. But nature was about to change the rules. By around 2100 BCE, subtle signs of strain appear in the archaeological record. Standardized bricks become less consistent. Seals grow cruder. Some neighborhoods are abandoned. Trade with Mesopotamia begins to wane, reflected in fewer Harappan artifacts abroad. Flood layers and rebuilding episodes hint at environmental stress. The Gagger-Hakra river system, believed by some to be the ancient Saraswati, starts drying. Satellite images and sediment cores show a shift from perennial to seasonal flow. This undermines farming communities dependent on reliable irrigation. Without steady water, harvests falter and surpluses shrink. Climatic studies indicate a weakening of the summer monsoon around this period. Less rainfall, combined with shifting rivers, reduced both crop yields and river transport. The Harappans faced a creeping crisis that eroded the stability of their urban world. One prominent theory centers on climate. Around 4,200 years ago, a global drought event affected many regions. In South Asia, monsoons weakened for centuries, reducing the floodwaters that replenished Indus fields. Archaeological pollen records and lake sediments corroborate this drying trend. With less dependable rain, farmers could no longer support large populations in arid zones. Cities lost their food base and people migrated to better watered regions. The sophisticated drainage systems built for heavy rains became irrelevant or difficult to maintain. This climatic shift does not imply an overnight collapse, but a gradual contraction. Over generations, city populations declined, crafts diminished, and the urban order unraveled. Another theory emphasizes river dynamics. Tectonic activity may have diverted tributaries, drying some channels and flooding others. Without steady flow, ports like Lothal silted up, and inland cities lost their arteries of trade. Evidence of flooding at Mohenjo-Daro shows repeated inundations, perhaps from shifting courses. Conversely, some sites show abandonment due to drought. The Indus world was bound to its rivers, and when they betrayed their patterns, cities paid the price. Earthquakes could have worsened matters by damaging wells, altering aquifers, or collapsing granaries. Such natural disruptions compounded the climatic stress already gripping the region. The Harappans thrived on exchange. When Mesopotamia entered periods of turmoil, demand for Indus goods may have dropped. Simultaneously, internal transport faltered as rivers shifted. Merchants lost customers, artisans lost income, and urban centers lost vitality. Without surplus wealth, maintaining large public works became harder. Wells dried, drains clogged, and civic pride faded. Uniform weights and measures symbols of trust declined, reflecting a breakdown of standardization. Trade collapse thus acted as both symptom and cause of urban decline, weakening the economic glue that held cities together. Some scholars suggest internal social changes. Perhaps the decentralized civic system fractured under stress. Local elites emerged, focusing on survival rather than coordination. Villages became self-reliant, undermining the networks that fed major cities. The archaeological record of the late Harappan phase shows more regional diversity in pottery and crafts. Cultural unity gave way to local styles, suggesting a shift in identity. Migration of new groups from the northwest may have further reshaped communities. This transformation was not necessarily violent. It may have been a slow reorganization of society, a return to rural life as the urban experiment became unsustainable. Older scholars once blamed the collapse on an Aryan invasion, a wave of chariot-riding warriors sweeping in from Central Asia. Today, most evidence undermines that scenario. No layer of widespread burning, no mass graves of slaughtered citizens appears in Harappan cities. Instead, genetic and archaeological data suggest gradual migration and mixing, not violent conquest. Indo-Aryan languages may have entered the subcontinent over centuries, but the urban decline was already underway. This revision matters because it shifts our understanding from dramatic battle scenes to complex environmental and social processes, a subtler but truer story. When the great cities emptied, the people didn't vanish. Many moved east toward the Ganges plain, where rainfall was more reliable. Villages replaced cities. Rice cultivation expanded. Traditions of craft and belief persisted in new settings. Some late Harappan sites show continuity of certain motifs, symbols, pottery shapes, ritual practices. These became part of the cultural mosaic that would later inform Vedic and other South Asian traditions. Thus, the Indus Valley Civilization ended not with extinction, but with transformation. Its DNA, cultural and literal, flowed into the next chapter of Indian history. Modern understanding of the Indus world began only in the 1920s with excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. British and Indian archaeologists uncovered vast brick platforms, drains, and seals, realizing they had found a lost civilization. Since then, hundreds of sites have been identified across Pakistan and India, revealing a complex urban network. Satellite imagery, sediment analysis, and climate modeling have enriched our picture of its environment. Yet mysteries remain: the undeciphered script, the nature of governance, and the precise causes of decline. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of this vanished world. The tiny seals bearing animals and symbols remain one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. Scholars debate whether it represents a full language or a proto-writing system. Its brevity and lack of bilingual texts hinder decoding. If deciphered, the script might reveal names of places, officials, or gods illuminating governance, religion, or trade records. Until then, we reconstruct society from artifacts alone. This silence lends the Harappans an aura of mystery. We see their infrastructure and art, but not their voices. Their unreadable words are like whispers from a lost world. Despite their silence, the Harappans left tangible legacies. Their drainage and sanitation systems inspired admiration worldwide. Their standardized brick technology influenced later builders. Even their beads and ornaments show advanced lapidary skill. Water management, civic cleanliness, and town planning set a precedent for later South Asian cities. The idea of public baths and ritual cleanliness resonates in cultural practices today. By studying these innovations, modern planners gain insight into sustainable urbanism, how to align infrastructure with environment, and how fragile that balance can be. Climate change, water scarcity, and migration are not just ancient problems. They echo in today's headlines. The Harappans remind us that even advanced societies can falter when their environmental base erodes. But they also show adaptability. Their people moved, adjusted, and carried their culture forward. This resilience is as instructive as their decline. Recognizing the interplay of nature, economy, and society in their story can guide our responses to current global challenges. Today, tourists walk the silent streets of Mohenjo-Daro under the hot sun. Archaeologists brush dust from bricks that once housed thriving families. Scholars map ancient riverbeds to understand how water shaped destiny. Each discovery brings us closer to the people behind the walls, their hopes, fears, and ingenuity. The Indus Valley Civilization is no longer a forgotten footnote, but a central chapter in human history. Its story of rise, transformation, and endurance invites us to look at our own societies and ask, how will we respond to the challenges of environment and change? The Harappans built cities without kings, planned towns without palaces, and sustained a culture for centuries in harmony with their rivers. When nature shifted, they moved and adapted, leaving behind ruins and mysteries for us to ponder. Their tale is not just of loss, but of continuity, a mirror for our own era of climate stress and urban complexity. If you enjoyed uncovering this ancient mystery, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you won't miss future deep dives into lost worlds. Comment below. Which theory about the Indus Valley Civilization do you find most convincing? Together we can keep the conversation and the curiosity alive.